claim.
It is sad that we should have an honorable member of parliament who respectfully makes computer statements without any evidence whatsoever.
Also tonight, special audit by Ghana Revenue Authority cites Bauxite Company for tax irregularities as it reviews how expatriate workers were classified as consultants to avoid payment of $1.2 million pay-as-you-earn tax for 3 years.
The sales price of the company was $32, but which was sold to a related party. The world market price was slightly different, so that accounts for the difference in the pricing.
We have details, and former executive director of CDD, Professor Jimabwedi, is tonight speaking. He's describing the composition of the Emil Short Commission set up to investigate the Ayawaso West Wuogon violence as narrow.
It's important that this commission includes somebody with expertise in security sector matters at the very least, and if possible, the social or political scientists.
We have details as members of the commission officially meet today to discuss roadmap in the execution of its one-month task in business.
Dealing with revenue shortfalls, you hear from a tax expert.
Later in sports, Black Satellite coach Jimmy Cobbler under serious pressure to quit his post following his side's abysmal performance at the ongoing African Youth Championship.
Also tonight, we hear the chilling and traumatic accounts of domestic violence victims who are speaking up and saying never again.
It's a shame that your husband is beating you and people can hear you shouting and people can hear you screaming and nobody comes to help you. Nobody comes to help you. And this is done in front of my son.
We have details here on Newsnight. You may want to join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp on 0244 340 437. I am MFA Pau.
My name is Evans Mensah. I have details right now.
We settle for the details now. Mbusa South MP Dr. Clement Apak is accusing Forestry Commission officials of conniving with rosewood merchants to engage in illegal felling of the species. The comments come after 2 people were killed in Wa over harvested logs over the weekend. There's currently a ban on the harvesting of the species, which came into force in 2014. But several companies have been given permits to collect rosewoods already lying in various forests in the northern part of the country. Some have allegedly taking advantage of this to harvest rosewoods freshly. Dr. Clement Apak, in whose area the illegal trade is rampant, tells Joy News there's official complicity in the illegal trade.
This has largely gone on as a result of official connivance.
Official connivance,
there is a clear scheme in play between the so-called merchants who deal in rosewood on the one hand, officials at the Forestry Commission on the other, and indeed persons at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources.
Okay.
Because if you look at the law, the only time that endangered tree species like rosewood, among many others, can be harvested or salvaged, quote unquote, is if they happen to be in an area that is in the catchment zone of a major developmental activity. In this case, the expansion of settlements, the expansion of large-scale farms, or the construction of dams and or roads. But if you look at the permits that have been issued since the various bans have been announced, these permits have been issued supposedly to companies and entities to salvage logs of rosewood in parts of the country where none of these are happening.
So those are the accusations. We've been speaking to the Forestry Commission CEO, Kojo Usefriye. He denies the claims.
It is sad that we should have an honorable member of parliament who respectfully makes some sweeping statements without any evidence whatsoever to say that there is an official connivance, in respect of this. And he mentioned Forestry Commission, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Let me deny emphatically that we do not officially sanction any illegality as far as rosewood or any other species are concerned. We don't. And the ministry also do not do that. What is happening is this, that as the Honourable Member of Parliament would agree, you have people from the very area who do the cutting, as it were, unlawfully. And once they are on the ground, farmers and other people use it for purposes of justice.
You heard the CEO of the Forestry Commission, Mr. Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie. Thankfully, he joins us on the line for more clarity on this. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight, Mr. Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie. So we've heard from the MP for Vulsa South, for instance. His concerns are that in spite of the ban, your officers are actually helping for this trade to thrive. Even though there's a ban in place, people are still harvesting with their consent.
Well, I spoke with you guys this afternoon and denied emphatically that none of my officers are involved in this illegal lumbering of the rosewood. The fact of the matter is this, that there are local guys who are involved in undertaking such illegal activities. And the last incident which happened where somebody unfortunately lost his life, was as a result of one gang who had gone to harvest these trees, and then another group who had gone to salvage, and that is that's what precipitated the crisis that we have all read about. It had nothing whatsoever to do with Forestry Commission, nor my ministry, nor any of our officers. And so when people talk about the fact that Forestry Commission people are involved, they must give us, further and better particulars.
And thankfully,
the real reasons for that.
And thankfully, the man who leveled the accusations against you, the Honourable Minister for that particular area, Dr. Clement Appak, he's just joined us on the line. Hopefully, we can get some further and better particulars from him. Dr. Appak, we just have on the line with us the CEO of the Forestry Commission, who denies categorically the claims that you've made that the Forestry Commission officials are complicit in the continuous harvesting of rosewood, although there's a categorical ban on it. He says that you must provide further and better particulars. Where's the evidence to suggest that his office is directly involved in this illegality?
Well, Evans, first of all, let me say good evening to you and good evening to your listeners. And if he wants the evidence, he should call his men in the field. He should call the forestry officer who has been put in charge of Busa North, Busa South, and Navrongo. And I say so to be ironic, but the facts are simple and straightforward. The law is very clear and explicit that it is only when economically viable trees or trees that are deemed to be endangered, it is only when they are in the catchment area of a major developmental activity, in this case, the construction of a major road, the construction of a dam. I think we can talk about the Bui Dam, whose own antecedents actually has a role to play in the explosive demand for rosewood across Ghana, or the expansion of a settlement. Now, you tell me, anywhere in Busa South, my constituency, where any of these activities is taking place, to warrant the harvesting of rosewood, for the Forestry Commission to then issue permits to merchants to go and so-called fictitiously salvage logs. It doesn't exist.
Dr. Park, the Forestry Commission CEO says that claim you just repeated is false. Have you seen a copy of this permit that I've been giving, and can you produce it with the?
I have seen so many permits. I have in my possession over 25 permits, and those permits were actually even issued after the NPP government had issued or renewed the ban, which was in place before they came into power. In February of 2017, I made a statement on the floor of Parliament on this challenge in my constituency. And it was on the basis of that Mr. Speaker saw it fit to ask his Committee on Lands and Forestry to go to my constituency on a fact-finding mission. They have submitted the report to Parliament, which has been approved.
And that report said what exactly?
Go through that report. I'm not sure he will be saying the kinds of things
no, Dr. Park, so that report said what exactly?
Well, he made a series of recommendations, but one of them which gladdens my heart, which I believe we should adopt, is the disallowance of issuing salvage permits. Because once there is that opportunity to issue salvage permits, what happens is that these merchants, with their official connivance, would sponsor young men to go into these places and cut down this endangered wood species, which take between 30 and 80 years to mature. They then turn around, come to the Forestry Commission to apply for permits to go and salvage the same plant wood that they themselves have sponsored to be cut. These are the issues.
Yeah, okay. Thankfully, the CEO is still with us on the line. So, Mr. Freer, so we just heard him say that there's also the additional layer of permits being granted for this salvaging, which is also against what the rules say.
Well,
is that...
Let me state that when you have an honorable member of parliament who makes sweeping and omnibus statements regarding the things that he speaks about, it is sad. Sad in the sense that we, from the Forestry Commission, do not issue permits for purposes of anybody felling trees. What happens is that there are several reasons. Sometimes farmers who plow these lands cut these trees down and then they burn them for purpose of charcoal. And normally what the ministry does, and it is not the Forestry Commission because he gets that wrong, we at the Forestry Commission do not issue permits. The permits are issued by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. All we do at the Forestry Commission is to fashion the rules and regulations and regulate how many of these rosewood can be salvaged. But for purposes of this, we do not permit anybody to go and cut fresh trees. But when they are down, then and if you care to read the letter that the ministry.
But how do they get down in the first place?
Purposes of salvaging. Now he asked this very interesting question: how did they come down? He must also answer that because the last incident that happened, it had nothing to do with any Forestry Commission staff or anybody. It is the very indigents of the area who went and cut these trees, and then another group went, for purpose of salvaging, and that brought about this unfortunate incident. Where is the complexity of the Forestry Commission in this? He made these wild allegations over and over and over the period. The Parliamentary Select Committee went there. He was part of that committee. Ask him where the report is. He was part of it.
So Mr. Oswefie, quickly, I would want to find out, Mr. Oswefie, you mentioned a while ago that it's the indigents that are cutting down these trees such that people have to salvage. Who is supposed to be watching such that these indigents are cutting down these trees when there's a ban in force?
Let me help you here. There are two areas that we can talk about. We have an off reserve. And if for the commission, we are not in charge of the trees that are cut in off reserve areas. And but 90% of these trees that are cut are in the off reserve. That has nothing whatsoever to do with the Forestry Commission. And so he gets it wrong. And it is also sad to note that even during his time, he knows the people who were involved in that when he was in government. Now that it's changed, he has nothing else to talk about except that every day every statement that he makes is about Rosewood. But he's never been able to pinpoint one person from the Forestry Commission who has been complicit in this. And so it's about time that he stopped this wild allegation that he continues to make, even on the floor of Parliament. In spite of that, they went there. He was part of it, and not one person from Forestry Commission or my ministry had been fingered. So it's about time that he stopped this wild allegation that he's making.
And very briefly, Mr. Freer, he says you just make the point about indigents cutting down these trees when they're not supposed to. What is it that Forest Commission is doing to prevent this from happening in the future?
And that's what I've said, that if it is in the off reserve, as I've said, there's very little that we can do. But if it is in the forest, then the Forest Commission, we have a duty to prevent people from going into our forest and to causing this. And we do that very well. And our record is there for everyone to see. And he can attest to that fact, that in our forest, we do not allow people to enter our forest to do that. But you know, some of these things are, you know, you can legislate about anything, but to completely stop it becomes, you know, a challenge. We are challenged with staff, you know, who go about, you know, patrolling these areas. But the incidents that he describes are all in the off, you know, forest and not in the forest reserve, as he wants the world to believe.
And Dr. Park, so what do you intend to do about this now, using your office as a member of parliament?
Well, I want to advise him to read in detail the recommendations made by the Forestry Commission.
What is it?
And look, this attempt to try and hoodwink Ghanaians into believing otherwise is not going to wash. The truth about the challenge that we are facing with regards to Rosewood is that it's similar to the issue of Galamsey. The truth remains that there is official complicity. I know that for a fact. Your own Joy FM reporter has done a documentary, and sooner or later it will become public. If he cares to know, in the statement that I made, which Mr. Speaker then referred to the Committee on Lands and Forestry, I made specific requests. And one of them included investigating how these logs come to the forest floor, how forestry officers get to know where they are, and why salvage permits are given for persons to salvage a product whose harvest has been deemed as illegal. I made specific requests in that statement. And if he thinks that I am going to stop the advocacy to draw attention to this fraudulent activity that is being perpetrated against the Savannah Ecological Zone, he should think again. I would never stop. I would never get tired.
I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time here on Newsnight. Dr. Clement Park and Kojo Sefri is the CEO of the Forestry Commission. Why is this important? Over the weekend, two people died because of a clash just over rosewood. At the time when there's a clear ban on harvesting rosewood, Joseph, what do we know about that clash itself?
So one team had moved in to harvest the rosewood. Another family were claiming ownership of the land on which the rosewood were harvested, and that's what resulted in the clash. So the wood itself had been harvested and gotten off. Was about who gets the payment in the end as to who owns the land. That resulted in the clash and led to the death of 2 people. The police have so far arrested 3 people in connection with that, and they indicate that investigations
Now, there's a controversy between the Forestry Commission CEO and Dr. Park about the credibility of the allegations. You've been there. You've seen the situation for yourself. What do you know?
For example, in the Tumu Forest Reserve, which is one of the places that I was, and even in other places like Bachonsa in the Busa South district, for example, where you see rosewood trees with very huge stems that obviously an ordinary farmer or community person couldn't have used, let's say, a machete or an axe to cut down. We went there during the day. We were told they usually operate in the night, and we saw the tire marks of heavy-duty vehicles and trucks that had been brought in order to cut some of these trees and move them out. We then raised concerns and virtually doubts about whether this is actually something that was being done by the local communities, or to a certain extent it was being done by companies that were well-resourced and well-equipped in order to do some of these. And the reference to those who had been asked to move in to do the salvaging, more than 22 companies were given this permit. And when you speak to various stakeholders along the chain, including even the District Security Council in places like Busa, they make the point that they think those who had come in to do the salvaging are probably those who are doing the harvesting. And the communities also repeatedly make that same point. And Dr. Clement Park was referring to the recommendations that have come from Parliament's Land and Natural Resources Committee, which submitted its report to the House last week and was approved. Parliament is making a specific recommendation that government should stop the issuance of permits for salvaging.
So it's true as far as this committee's report is concerned that there's government is still issuing permits.
Exactly the case, which now the committee is telling government and advising that they stop that. And the point is, the local communities actually have use for the rosewood. It's not just about the role it plays in helping keep the environment. They use it in the construction of their homes. They use it, they cut off the backside, soak it in water, and use it to paint their homes, so that then the advisors, they could make use of those ones which need to be salvaged without companies being brought in to then allegedly cut the road.
Joseph, thank you very much. Still to come.
We hear the chilling and traumatic accounts of domestic violence victims who are speaking up and saying never again.
It's a shame that your husband is beating you and people can hear you shouting and people can hear you screaming and nobody comes to help you. Nobody comes to help you. And this is done in front of my son.
Details after the break.
It's time to experience something different, unexpected, and definitely beyond banking. It's a new era at GCB Bank, Ghana's most welcoming bank, where we offer you a world of financial security, flexibility, and convenience. We swiftly serve you with over 180 branches and 300 ATMs, and provide e-banking solutions that make it possible for you to bank anywhere, anytime. When you need a personal loan, sooner is better than later, so we give it to you in 24 hours to make sure the experience is always memorable. At GCB, your opportunities are limitless and we keep you smiling at all times. We're bigger and better, ready to take you beyond banking. GCB Bank, your bank for life.
It's the year of the car owner with Enterprise Insurance. Just dial *714*556#. Choose update your details, follow the prompts, and voila! You are in for surprises that will make your head swell big. Surprises like mobile data, useful car insurance tips, and many more. Remember, updating your details even helps to speed up the claims process. Car owner, this is your year. Insure with Enterprise. Dial *714*556# and update your details now.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Trusted, innovative financial services, providing affiliation, support and solutions. Customer-oriented, superior services, your success our passion. Trusted, innovative financial services, providing affiliation, support and solutions. Customer-oriented, superior services, your success our passion. 10 good years of loyalty, service with integrity, protective of our guardian brand. 10 years of excellence, 10 years of loyalty, your success our passion. Oh yeah, your success our passion.
Your success, our passion.
Hello, I say, I was now. Vodafone normal 10 megabyte free data. It will call Smart Rubiadron. Share.
Hello, have you heard that Vodafone is giving 10 megabyte free data for every minute you talk? You just dial 50/50.
Yeah, hello. Aha! Right now, with the Vodafone people, just they call plenty. Second of us, you talk 1 minute, you go get 10 megabytes. You talk 2 minutes, you go get 20 megabytes. 3 minutes.
Call Vodafone or any network and get 10 megabytes of free data every minute you talk. It's simple. Talk to browse. The more you talk, the more data you get. Dial 50/50 to subscribe. Talk more, browse more. Terms and conditions apply.
The future is exciting. Ready?
Nationwide Medical Insurance, the leader in private health insurance, has deployed superior technology to make your healthcare experience more convenient and exciting. With the Nationwide mobile app, you can order your prescription drugs and we will deliver to your doorsteps. With over 600 dependable healthcare service providers, you're just a step away locating your service provider of choice and accessing hospital claim information in real time. Our corporate clients are guaranteed timely corporate utilization reports. We provide on-site clinics to give give employees access to healthcare in the comfort of their offices. Enjoy these amazing benefits and so much more by signing on to Nationwide Medical Insurance today. Call us on toll-free number 0800-222222 or visit our website www.nationwidemh.com. Nationwide Medical Insurance. Join the healthcare family.
Welcome back to Newsnight. Evans, you know that they usually give telltale signs of physical and emotional abuse in a relationship, which are usually ignored until it becomes fully blown, causing victims to sometimes lose their lives.
Well, those who do not die endured it for years, hoping their abusers will turn a new leaf. That is a story of Habiba, who was beaten by her husband before her 2 children and left her to her fate. Now, she recounts her chilling ordeal to my colleague Martha Krentilakwa of our Agenda Desk.
For the past 5 years and 3 months of our marriage, it's been emotional and mental abuse, one after the other.
When I saw the pictures of how Habiba looked the night her husband allegedly physically assaulted her, I was taken aback. With blood gushing from under her eye, then she showed me pictures of her swollen head after she had been cleaned up at the 37 military hospital where she sought medical attention. She still has very visible marks on her face from the bruises she suffered.
My husband physically abused me. He beat the hell out of me. In fact, he punched my face and my head so many times and left me with bruises. And he left me bleeding.
What started as an argument over decision to allow her husband spend time with his 3 other wives as she worked towards starting a new business did not go down well with the husband who had initially agreed.
He just kept punching my face and punching my face, asking me to leave his house. And he wants to make sure he destroys my face so no other man will see me and marry me again.
Habiba recounts the punches were aimed only at her head and face, and her attempts to prevent them were fruitless.
He had a ring on. He just kept, not the wedding band sort of, no, the men fashion rings, the silver rings. I went down to protect my face, and I had both hands protecting my face, and now he was punching my head. So when I tried to remove one hand or both hands to protect my head, then he comes from down like an uppercut sort of, and then hits from beneath, punching from beneath. So I don't know at what point he punched under my eye, then blood gushed out and spilled onto the wall. Then blood was I was just bleeding from my nose onto the ground.
In her words, when my husband was satisfied, he left me bleeding with broken glasses, table and blood splattered on the wall, plus 2 children to console. She gathered the rest of the strength in her and drove to a nearby police station to lodge a complaint where she was asked to go to a public hospital for a medical report. She recalls her father was shaking when he saw her.
We didn't get down. And my father was shaking at that particular moment. So he sat in the car and he was accelerating, but the car wasn't going anywhere. Then he changes the gear, the car was still not moving. So I just put my left hand on his right hand and I said, "Daddy, start the engine." So that was when my father was able to really put himself together, started the engine, and then moved the car to 37. This is a workout.
Habiba says she is done listening to pleas from family members whenever her husband abused her. She is this time going all out to get justice and save other women who may be in similar situation. Martha Krentilakwa, Joy News, Accra.
I'm not backing out.
So you think Habiba's story is chilling? Listen to some women who joined the What Love Is Not discussion on the Super Morning Show today. They talk about the physical and emotional abuse they've had to endure from the very people they tend to for love.
The guy was very, very abusive. To the extent that he even came to my house, he picked me by the roadside, me naked, all because he said he thought I was cheating with a neighbor in my house. I told my auntie and she didn't say anything. I reported to the guy's mother, and all she could say was, "A son cannot do something like that." And so if something of that sort has happened to me and I should rather check my attitude. To beat me by the roadside and strip me naked, it's virtually like putting my womanhood outside. And this guy never apologized for that. Quite unfortunately, I was pregnant by then. But fortunately on my part, I didn't lose the pregnancy. But sometimes, aside the physical, emotionally, it is very, very, very stressful and painful. And you have no one to speak for you. You have no one to stand up or no one for you to talk to.
It's emotionally, which is even worse than being abused physically, because you don't even know how to express it to someone else. There are no marks on you, so the scars are really inside. Even my work, when I see him coming up close and just sit down, when he's going to work, he leaves like one CD on the table and comes back and expects to eat. The children's school fees is on my head. If I try to say anything, he would insult from my mother down to my unborn generation. Sometimes you try to make it work, so you don't tell anybody. He really, really destroyed me. In relationships, we should open our eyes. Through counseling, I've been able to build myself up. Through prayers, I've been able to build myself up. I've gotten my confidence back, and I'm working out.
If I tell you what I'm going through now, you can't believe it. I'm being physically abused, even through pregnancy. All my pregnancies, I've had issues for weeks. He's not come home. I'm there with the kids. No money. If I'm not working, I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids. I don't know who to go to. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to talk to. What is this? Is this marriage? Is this? You are being suppressed. You can't excel. You can't do what you want to do. You can't be yourself. You just have to keep quiet and say yes all the time. You can't ask questions. You can't suggest anything. You can't give advice. You are just there and being manipulated and being controlled. And it's a shame that your husband is beating you and people can hear you shouting and people can hear you screaming and nobody comes to help you. Nobody comes to help you. And this is done in front of my son. This is done in front of my son. When you complain to his parents, they tell you that's not how they brought up their kids, and that's not how he is, and he's not like that. And you are the liar. You are the liar. Oh my God. He lies about everything, and on top he will cheat. And give you some disease that I'm carrying now.
Wow. We can now speak to Gloria Ofori-Boadu, who is a founder of Women's Assistance and Business Association, WABA, a lawyer herself and a women's rights activist, and joins us on the telephone line right now. Gloria, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. A fundamental question, when a woman is abused, and in terms of getting redress, what's the first thing the woman should do according to the law?
Well, when a woman is abused, it's a social problem because invariably we also have children involved. So in this case, the first thing is to seek for help. Because if you don't seek for help, you might end up being killed and the children also in the process. So I would say that when we look at our Children's Act, the issue of children's welfare comes into being when there's domestic violence. And district assemblies are supposed to ensure the welfare of children in their communities. I'll give you an example. There's a woman who has 6 children, 5 boys, 1 girl, oldest 12, youngest 2. And she's had to flee from home, leaving the children because she was being abused by her husband. In this case, what's going to happen to the children? So the best thing is to have I told her to report to the police, but apparently the policeman that knows her husband, and she was beaten in his presence, so she doesn't trust the police. So in this case, the alternative is for her to go to the DCE, who will then act as a guardian, get the police to take a civil protection order application to court. That's under the Domestic Violence Act. So that under the civil protection order, the man who is a perpetrator will be given a quit notice, a notice to quit from the home, so that the woman who has run away from Odumasi and is roaming around the streets of Accra can go back and take care of 5 young children.
Well, Gloria, I've heard what you've said. However, the practicality of it is a lot of the systems you mentioned, the police, as you say, this woman you mentioned, and the women that we played, the police simply lack an understanding of how to fix a problem. And so the police station often doesn't become an option because you go there, they simply don't understand what is happening, and they will not prosecute this as a criminal case. Secondly, you talk about the DCE. I mean, these women who are abused, that system doesn't even come up in your head. If the police can't help you, who can? I mean, and the entire society, you hear, go to a family, they say, well, the man is not like that, go back home, and the people suffer in the quiet. I'm just wondering, in practical, real terms, and I know you've dealt with a lot of these women, what do you advise? What works, really? What really works from what you experience?
I gave you a practical example of a woman from Udumasi who has fled and left her young children aged 12 to 2 years because she's being beaten by her husband. And yet she can't go to the police because the husband is a friend of the policeman, and apparently her husband beat her once in the presence of the policeman. So practically a higher authority is needed. And that is where we look at the law. The district assemblies are mandated by the Children's Act to be responsible for every child in their community. So I think it's about time the district assemblies, especially the DCE, led that aspect. Because usually when it comes to district assembly, we think of sanitation, environment, internally generated funds, and what have you. But how about the human capital? Human capital, the human resource, 6 children being left to grow up without their mother. Okay, their father also apparently is alcoholic because he's lost his job and he's relocated to the small town and he's never at home. So they are left on their own. We need the human capital to develop for the economy. In some countries, like even China, they don't have enough human capital to work and take care of the aging population. So in this country, we don't have that problem, but we have human capital as young as 2 years, 12 years, and we have to develop them. So I see domestic violence not just as a woman issue, but as a human capital development issue.
I'm grateful that you joined us, Gloria Foribwedu, and there have been reactions to the stories that we've heard, the chilling stories that we've heard today.
My question is, so can't you just walk out? When you say this, they tell you there are kids involved now. This is what we are doing, and it's hurting our children. Your kid is going to grow up to become twice what you are, and you wouldn't understand. If you're a man and you're beating your wife or you're beating a woman, you're an animal, and you need to be treated as such.
I want to draw our attention to a lot of men in coat and tie that are mad on the street, which we are refusing to accept as a society. Sewa's experience, I hope we shall not sweep it under the carpet. Sewa's husband is mad from her narration, and she's living with a madman and refusing to accept it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You had some reactions to this increasing number of cases when it comes to domestic violence, and you had some victims there, quite some chilling stories there. Let's do business now. George Riafe has the latest.
Interesting developments.
Well, it's a very, very sad, tragic, and there are thousands of women going through this tonight.
And there's a society that is
the systems, the culture.
Reach out for
when
help.
You leave, they'll tell you that why are you going to? Because there's no other person to marry you.
For help. I mean, if you have if you want to share with us your own experience or thoughts on this, please share with us on WhatsApp 0244-340437. George, what do you have in the headlines?
Well, events coming up in business. The National Insurance Commission rules out revocation of Bage Assurance's license despite an earlier warning, as it rather works to help the firm to actually bring it back to its strong footing. And dealing with revenue challenges with the country, is this structural or personnel? We hear from a tax consultant. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
Hello and welcome
Welcome to the MTN Weather Report. Minim says still, I'm not for and dry. But this year, whatever your needs are, we there for you. Now the details of my weather report. 15,000 cities will blow from the tropical boundaries across the country. We can also see a mist of fog patches of 25,000 cities and a heavy monetary downpour of 30,000 cities are a move to treat the dry season across the country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere you go, whether it be school fees or acquisition fees, we there for you. Rent advance, salary advance, your sorted advance, because with MTN, we there for you. Now keep talking, browsing, texting, and sending Momo to accumulate points and win prizes each month to cushion you this year in the MTN More For You promo. 80 dial *120 hash. Now check your points. We there for you everywhere you go.
Everybody make us see you do the dance. Do the dance.
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Let us help you bank with the right bank. At First National Bank, we're more than just a bank. We're a digital partner that actually understands your business. Enjoy massive value with our various banking solutions. Get a business check account, a day-to-day transactional account for all businesses from all sectors of the economy. Access our online banking enterprise and bank your way 24/7. Invest with our short or long-term options that enable immediate access to funds. Optimize your cash flow, raise capital, and acquire assets with ease with our lending solutions. Trade with speed, consistency, and innovation with our global payments and forex solutions. With so much value up for grabs, there is no reason not to bank with First National Bank. First National Bank. How can we help you?
Joy 99.7 FM.
You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the National Insurance Commission says it has no immediate intention of withdrawing the license of Beige Assurance despite an earlier notice. The regulator in a notice last year indicated that it was working to withdraw the license of the firm due to some corporate governance issues and liquidity challenges. But Justice Ofori, that is the commissioner, says they've now reviewed their position.
We've started our enforcement action. That is when we ask you not to write new businesses and other things. So we're also encouraging them to get an investor. But at the end of the day, if you can get people to invest in the company and to protect people's jobs and people's policies, is the best option. So we are looking at the best option for the company and the policyholders.
But if they've broken all those requirements per your same laws and what was communicated, and the grace period that was given to them, they have failed to implement it, then some is saying that when are you going into to ensure that you act quickly to protect the policyholders of this company?
If a company is going under, getting investors, you don't just go in the market and then buy the investors. People have to do due diligence. You need to check the accounts, you need to do some actuarial analysis and other things to make sure that it's going to be a good investment. We think it might look slow, but we think it's secured. Policyholders' interests are secured.
Justice Ofori is Commissioner of the National Insurance Commission. Now, is it a structural issue or personnel when it comes to meeting the country's revenue target? Now, this was after government ended last year again, going down by 2 billion Ghana cedis short of its 37 billion Ghana cedis revenue target. So how do we get around this challenge? That's the question we pose to tax partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Aisha Bedway.
around the structural side of things, the laws have been passed, they've been amended, and I think more or less things are quite stable on that side. But it's got to do with enforcement and collection. The truth is that there's still a large number of people in Ghana who are not contributing their fair share to the tax revenue bucket, and that's why we keep having these shortfalls.
So does it mean that then it's more of a personal issue, because bringing more hands on board can help address the problem?
Well, apart from bringing the hands on board, it's got to do with enforcement and then the consistency of that enforcement and collection. So you could bring hands on board, but if they just do a particular area and then they don't have the capacity to keep on going on to the other areas, that nothing has been gained. So it's a process. Obviously, you have to have additional hands. Then there has to be a targeted approach, maybe going, district by district, possibly.
So for more on this, on how to improve tax collections and also the smart way for paying your tax, join us tomorrow morning at the Joy Business Notice series in partnership with PricewaterhouseCoopers in the IntelliTax tax series that is paying our taxes in an intelligent way at Mövenpick Hotel. There appears to be some challenges with the country's program with the IMF. Now, this was after it emerged that the country's 7 review failed to secure the board's consideration. The development could have had implications on the country's program ending in April this year. But how are these challenges impacting on the economy? Professor Godfrey Bobkin is an economist.
It is unfortunate and it's not good for the market confidence, investor confidence in the economy, because these reviews have delayed unnecessarily. In fact, they should have been completed last year in terms of the 7th review. And to date, that hasn't gone to the board. There are real risks because a budget deficit that has to be financed. Recent data suggests, I think when you are talking about the Eurobonds, you can see the spread, the gap between Ghana and Kenya, that is the divergence is increasing, which is not good for us. Already, the global financial environment is not that receptive to Eurobonds coming from Africa. So you don't want to go to the market with this kind of uncertainty. Then in that way, you'll be panicked. And because the cost of borrowing is significant for us now, even a 1 percentage point difference is significant enough for us.
Professor Godfrey Bobkin is an economist and finance lecturer in University of Ghana, Legon. Now, the Ministry of Aviation is said to be expediting a move to set up an aviation school by the middle of this year to help address the looming challenges in pilot supply in the aviation industry. Speaking to Joy Business during a meeting between the Minister of Aviation and Ghana's youngest female pilot, that is Audrey Southson, the Minister for Aviation said plans are far advanced to have this in place.
Studies have shown that there's a shortfall of 500,000 pilots globally, and there's no pilot training school in the West Africa or Central African area. So we've set measures in place to make sure that we are able to set up a pilot training school in Ghana in the shortest possible time. Once that is set up, we can train more Ghanaians from all levels, whether they are technical school, polytechnics, university, what have you. They're going to learn how to fly, and once they're able to fly and get their licenses, they can support the Ghanaian airline that's going to be setting up very soon, and then the other commercial airlines that are operating in Ghana. Or they can go out of the country and serve other airlines globally and bring some money back home. And so we need to encourage Ghanaians to quickly get into the sector. And we hope that by the middle of this year, we'll be able to get this pilot training academy or school set up quickly.
Minister for Aviation, Joseph Kofi Atta. And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, George. You've been talking a lot about taxes, and talk about taxes. A special audit by the Ghana Revenue Authority has cited the bauxite company for tax irregularities as it details how expatriate workers were classified as consultants to avoid payment of pay-as-you-earn tax amounting to $1.2 million over 3 years. The GRA has therefore slapped the Ghana Bauxite Company with a tax liability of over $3.5 million after its audit of the operations between 2013 and 2016. Last year, Joy News reported how the mining firm evaded penalty of over $90 million for overloading haulage trucks. Joy News investigative journalist Kwete Nati reports.
The tax audit revealed that the Ghana Bauxite Company engaged in sales with its parent company, Seiti Minerals Group. The transactions, however, did not reflect an arrangement that would have been made between independent entities and thereby resulting in a sales difference of $9.6 million. Commissioner in charge of operations at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Kwame Osu, explains the company engaged in underselling with its parent company between 2013 and 2016.
The sales price of the company was $32, but which was sold to a related party. The world market price was slightly different, so that accounts for the difference in the pricing.
And how do we lose as a nation?
We lose because if the markup on the product is supposed to be 10 on the world market, it means that we can get taxes on all the 10. If related parties agree that they are going to sell to themselves at 5, it means that the extra 5, which would have made a difference of 10, we are going to lose up on that. And all the money there will go to the multinational company. So that is why we lose out. And that is how, and that is why and how we lose out.
According to the tax audit report, the Ghana Bauxite Company failed to submit its payee tax on some employee allowances. This amounted to a liability of over $300,000. The GRA also noted that salaries of expatriates were low. Some of the expatriate employees were classified as consultants working in Ghana on behalf of Bozai Group, thereby avoiding payee taxes. After its computation, the payee tax and penalties charged the company was pegged at over $1.2 million. Mr. Usu says such practices by multinationals are widespread.
Things of this nature distort market forces. Because if you undersell, it means that you can ultimately become a monopoly because you're going to undersell those who are on the open market. And it doesn't augur well for the world economy, for a global economy, because transactions are supposed to be at arm's length. And when we say at arm's length, it means that the transactions are done according to the forces of demand and supply, and not by the agreement between two related parties. That is why it is of concern to us.
The Ghana Revenue Authority also found that withholding tax records for 2013 and 2016 revealed that certain payments to third parties for supply of goods and services were not appropriately taxed. The charge for this act amounted to over $500,000. The management of the Bauxite Company will not comment on the matter. Reporting for Joy News, Kwetenate, Accra.
Well, Kwetenate has been speaking to the Deputy Roads and Highways Minister to get a reaction to the latest developments.
And what the ministry has done is to suspend the axle load processes. The companies that were initially running these private companies which had been given to run these things, we've taken them over now. So the Ghana Highway Authority is back running these places. In fact, there are new reforms that are being put in place by the minister to resolve these challenges we are having. And it's not only the one at the Ghana Bauxite Company area. Across the country, all our axle load stations are coming under these reforms, plus the tolls, which are also a part of the automation processes to ensure that we are actually able to, the axle loads work properly, and then we are able to make the needed revenue, and also we're able to control the weight on the vehicles as far as our roads are concerned.
But these investigations, hasn't it taken time? Ghana Revenue has indicted Ghana Bauxite $3 million. Land Ministry has cancelled their contract. Has this investigation not taken? Because money needs to be recouped.
What you also need to remember is that don't forget that there are related ministries that have to deal with Ghana Bauxite. As far as we are concerned, we are only restricted to the axle load weigh station. That is where we come in. However, the bauxite concession is being revoked has nothing to do with the Ministry of Roads. It's another ministry that has to deal with it. And that's why, as far as these malpractices are concerned, we decided that we do not have the capacity as a ministry to investigate these matters. Why don't we bring in the national security? I haven't cited the report yet, but I'm told that the report has been submitted to the minister. And I'm aware that the minister, even before, just right after your documentary was aired, there were certain consequential measures that were taken, and we added axle load as part of the ministry's reforms for 2019, and the tolling systems that we have, we're also trying to automate them. So,
and that's Anthony Abaifa Kabo, is a Deputy Roads and Highways Minister. Let's do some sports now, and Hans here with the very little. Hans.
Hello, Evans, and please don't talk about Chelsea.
Are you doing it together today?
We are done with Chelsea. Okay, let's see how the UEFA Champions League matches go. So you're playing Paris Saint-Germain tomorrow. We'll see. Cool chop. Yeah? Right, Black Satellite coach Jimmy Kobla is under pressure to quit his role following the team's abysmal performance at the ongoing African Youth Championship. Ghana failed to book a place in the next stage of the championship, and also will not be at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup after winning 1 and losing 2 out of the 3 group games. Kobola's head is on the chopping block and veteran coach J.E. Sapon wants him out.
Yes, I would have resigned from Niamey before coming to Ghana. I've resigned so many clubs in this country. I've been sacked. I've also resigned. But I resigned, the number of times I resigned is more than the number of times I was sacked. Because if I see that I've failed the team, I'll get off. I don't wait for the authorities to come and disgrace me and tell the whole world the coach has been fired. I'll fire myself before you fire me. Because before you talk about firing Coach Sapon, I'm in the house already. I'll fire myself. So who do you fire? I'll be surprised if that's an African coach for you. That's a Ghanaian coach, typical of Ghanaian coach. When they are being pushed to the wall, they still back. Instead of saying I'm all right, they still back that they can do it. So let's wait. Perhaps he has not arrived yet. So I think they'll be in the country by now. I think they arrived yesterday. Let's see the coming weeks. But there are more revelations that are going to happen during the week. And I'm sure nobody will talk about normalization now until Jimmy Commonwealth's case is over.
Coach J.E. Sapon there and Arsenal midfielder Aaron Ramsey have signed a pre-contract agreement to join Juventus in the summer in a deal that will earn him over £400,000 a week. Ramsey has agreed a 4-year contract that will see him join the Italian champions as a free agent, ending his 11-year spell with the Gunners. That's your sports.
Thank you very much, Hans. So listen to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM.
Now, the former executive director of the Center for Democratic Development, Professor Jima Bwedi, has described the composition of the Justice Emil Short Commission as too narrow. Here's why. The commission established by the Vice President on Friday to probe the shootings that occurred during the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election is chaired by Justice Emil Short and Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu and Patrick Echampong as its members, with Kofi Abuchi as the secretary. But the Eswal Boss of Democracy think tank, CDD, thinks the commission's composition is too loaded with lawyers. Listen to him.
The composition is a bit too narrow, confined as it were to lawyers. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's not a good idea to have lawyers involved in these things, but to have such a commission investigating the problem of this hydra-headed nature and complexity, a problem that is rooted in our, at least recent history of democracy in a fourth republic, rooted in the increasingly scorched earth competition between the MPP and the NDC as the 2 main political forces of the land. A phenomenon that is getting uglier by the day and likely to get uglier. Something that evolves and speaks to the political economy of Ghana, the political culture we have evolved, very terrible political culture we've been involved in. I think that it's important that this commission includes somebody with expertise in security sector matters, at the very least, and if possible, the social or political scientists with grounding, whose research and output are grounded in the politics of Ghana, the political economy of Ghana, and the political culture of Ghana.
And that's Professor Jima Bwedi, he's the former head of the CDD. Well, today, that commission, the Commission of Inquiry into the Ayawaso by-election violence, they began sitting. This sitting, however, was simply to draw up how they will approach their task, the modalities that will govern the way they do their things. It's not open to the media, but we managed to get an interview with Kofi Abuchi, who is the secretary to the commission, just to get an insight into what the commission was doing today in this first meeting.
The essence of today was basically to put together working documents, to put together methodology, to agree on the frame of work that we have, to deal with issues of evidence, to deal with possible issues of witnesses, and then to set in place and in motion an operational strategy that ultimately will lead to the effective execution of the mandate that is actually incumbent on us under CI 111. So today was just a preparatory meeting to put things together. But a lot happened today that, again, I cannot go into detail in respect of, because we are still putting things together and it's not fair to the commissioners. And indeed,
but at least with the method, as you mentioned, Ghanaians will want to know the methodology, because already we do understand that some individuals will be invited. I mean, was it part of the conversation you had this afternoon?
The commission is a quasi-judicial body. As a quasi-judicial body, the commission will employ judicially acceptable standards of investigation. So the commission will not depart substantially from methodologies that may have been used by other commissions in the past.
And that's Mr. Kofi Abochi. He is the secretary to the Commission of Inquiry into Yawaso West Wuogon by-election violence and to the campaign Bring Back Our Tardy Girls. The family of the 3 kidnapped girls in Takoradi, they have issued a 1-week ultimatum to police over a fresh twist to the controversial jailbreak of the alleged kidnapper. The prime suspect revealed in court today details of how he broke jail. Samuel Udutek Wales today told his the judge sitting on this case, a CID officer, and one Kwesi assisted him during his escape from the Takoradi Central Police Cell in December. This did not go down well with relatives and families of the missing girls.
As I came to court this morning, I am so much disappointed in Ghana Police because the kind of information that we've been giving to the police for the arrest of this guy, and today for us to come to the court and hear that the CID assisted the guy, then it means all the information that we've been giving to the police, it means a policeman can stand there and a foreign person can just come and kill a Ghanaian and go for free. Because for an investigator, you call yourself investigator and you assist such a person. No.
Well, the family now, on the back of the revelations today in court, that is, Criminal Investigations Department officer may have assisted this gentleman who is still in police custody to escape the first time. On the back of that, the families there have given the police 1-week ultimatum to locate the girls. Exactly. And also deal with these individuals involved. This is something we're keeping an eye on. Remember, bring back our girls, bring back our tardy girls. That's the hashtag to use on Facebook. And that's it for Newsnight. Tonight, my name is Evans Mensah.
I am Emefa Apau.
And we'll leave you with the sound from the minority folks in the House of Parliament in the wake of all the controversies surrounding the Yawaso West Wuogon by-elections.
As for us, never ever. I've said that the grandfather of the person who would